Welcome back to another episode of The Human Edge. I've got Scott Stolze in studio with me today. And of course, I'm Patrick Somers. We're going to be doing a quick take on data centers. And making the headlines right now is the governor of New York, Kathy Holcomb, who has put a 1 year moratorium on any data centers in the state of New York. Scott, your thoughts on that?
Well, as always, Patrick, good to be back with you, and I'm glad we're jumping right on this topic. So, as always, let's talk about the effect on the citizens. There's a lot to think about with the tech companies and those who will be building. There's a lot to think from a political perspective. But when I hear about the data centers being built in some locations or towns, one of the first things that I think about is how is it going to impact jobs? How is it going to impact the cost of living in that area? And how is it going to impact the way people can learn more good, positive things about AI? I mean, if something like that was being built down the road from you, what would be one of your initial thoughts?
Well, we just had one rejected in the city of Coachella, and my initial thought is how short-sighted and unaware and what a poor negotiator the individuals are that are responsible for that decision. Because to me, it's a golden opportunity, and if you're a strong negotiator, it's an even better opportunity, but to just reject it outright on the water usage and the electricity demand and the bullshit that I hear the people are gonna subsidize big technology companies. What you're telling me there is I don't know how to negotiate, and I'm gonna let the big dogs come in and take advantage of me. Then you should get out of the role and let somebody that knows what they're doing and can make the right deal do it.
Politicians, for example, are notorious for wanting to do case studies or a year, in some cases more than a year, of collecting data so they can study and understand, so they say, understand the ramifications. You and I both know in many cases what they're doing is they're buying time. They're also, tell me what you think of this, trying to put their finger up and the wind, see which way the wind is blowing because they themselves often aren't ready to make a decision that they think would be helpful or hurtful one way or another for their community, for their constituents. They need to read the room a little bit more. And I think they just get in the way.
Well, the reality is this: politicians, there's good politicians and there's bad politicians. There's good business people, there's bad business people. We could go on with that. However, there are more useless politicians than there are useless people in any other segment because they're focused on their next reelection. They're focused on their agenda many times, not all of them, right? But they become so enamored with the moment and they're paralyzed. They're paralyzed in a decision making and it slows things down and it holds things up. Typically, they're not good business people. Not all of them. There are people that have come from business and gone into, the politics, have served or are serving. But lo and behold, that is not the norm. There's usually career politicians. They make decisions, they're not good negotiators, and they think and act like a politician, whereas in reality, you probably need somebody that thinks and acts like a good business person.
To me, the two biggest problems in politics these days, in my opinion, are what you just said, that not enough politicians have real business experience. It should be to a degree in some way, shape, or form a requirement almost. And the other one is they're too infatuated with their next election. Another thing actually you just said. So they're always thinking about how can I retain power instead of doing what's best. A little bit of a generalization, but that's what I see in a lot of cases. So in the community then, Patrick, who should be negotiating? So we know the tech companies have a lot of, they have a lot of connection to and vested interest in these data centers. And a lot of them, by the way, 7 or 8 of them are ponying up billions of dollars to fund these. So if it was your call, who in the community should be involved in making these decisions?
Well, first of all, it's gotta be the politicians because we elect them to represent us, right? However, they don't always they don't represent the constituents at a whole's interest. They represent their reelection interest and things of that nature many times. They should have a collective group around them that can help with these things, experienced negotiators, obviously attorneys. You gotta bring, you know, that great song, "Send Lawyers, Guns, and Money," right? I'm a firm believer in that, but and I don't wanna turn this into a political conversation, but so much of it is driven by politics, especially in the state of New York. If I was a data center, I'd say, "Well, good, we'll never come to your state, and guess what? We are gonna make sure your state has limited access to what we provide,
Mhm.
or there's a higher premium to it, and we're gonna better take care of the people that are gonna work with us in those areas. Now, is that a realistic way to think? No, but I'm telling you, that's you think, well, we don't you can't play in our sandbox. Okay, great. We ain't coming to your sandbox then. All right. Right now, politicians are making decisions on data centers without truly understanding the complexity and the ins and outs, and that this isn't a real issue, right? There's actually an AI company out there that is talking about AI and data centers, and this young girl, and I know because my youngest daughter sent me the clip, and she was scared because it was AI and data centers are gonna pollute and contaminate your water, and this young girl has a filthy, dirty jar of water, and this is what it's gonna do to your water. But then the ad goes on to say, "That's why you should use our service because we plant trees," right? So, I thought a politician must be running that company or their marketing department. Anyways, I had to explain to my daughter, first of all, water evaporates, it goes into the ground, it travels, it goes to different areas. If we have a nuclear power plant and we're using millions of gallons of water to cool reactors and it turns into steam, it doesn't disappear. It eventually comes back to us. It might be hundreds of miles away, but it doesn't go away. Now, the contamination of the water, like that's just fear mongering. Now, are there real issues with what we have? There are real issues with what we have. But just saying, no, we're not going to allow them here, we're not going to allow them there, to me is a lack of experience, a lack of understanding, is more of probably your own beliefs in being against maybe not data centers and AI, but against fossil fuels and energy generation because you're never going to supply and power these data centers that we need with renewable energy. If you want to really get me going, let's talk nuclear because we should have micro nuclear plants all over that to me that is the cleanest energy. Oh, what about the fuel rods? What about the spent fuel? Hey, let's listen to France. Encase them in glass, bury them into a mountain every 30 years. That's a heck of a lot less contamination than the oil you see running out of these windmills 10 miles away from me. The oil just running down these things. That's renewable clean energy. As long as we have oil to lubricate the motors and the bearings, Scott, this is supposed to be on data centers. This stuff gets me fired up, people.
That's right. That's right. And before we get over to one other aspect of this topic, particularly jobs, which you'll have a lot to say on. I know, I understand the unfortunately, let's call it as it is. Politicians usually have an agenda, they have set beliefs. They don't always show the best traits or ability to evolve their thinking or change their mind. It's so funny because when I was reading about the moratorium she issued, there was some comment about costs are already going up, energy costs have been going up in the state of New York. It's not because of data. There are no data centers in New York yet. The costs have gone up because of the focus on renewable energy, which is the
Correct.
case in many states. At least acknowledge it. My gosh, if you're gonna, implement or push your agenda on other people and industries that could affect a lot of job opportunities, at least come clean.
That's a perfect example. Kathy Holcomb, this should be her. We know we need data centers. We know they're important. However, currently, they don't align in our globalist view of eliminating fossil fuels and only having renewable energy. And until we get that worked out, we can't even begin to think about how we're going to be able to create the energy to supply to these data centers because
Mm.
we as a state are so sideways in our energy production, we don't even know how we're going to provide the energy we need to the people of the state. Now you're being honest and now you could say I understand why you're doing a moratorium because you are so green energy, you are so anti-fossil fuel as a state, you are so renewable energy that you can't even take care of the people in the state, you can't even keep energy costs low for the people in the state. So put a moratorium on it. Let's figure out how we're going to do that. Then we can bring and look at data centers. We're not against data centers altogether. We're just against doing it right now because we're so messed up as a state. I'd be like, Kathy, that's beautiful.
That would be what you just said right there. One of the most refreshing things I've heard from a politician, maybe ever.
Yeah.
I I wouldn't agree with it, but I'd be like, damn, I kind of respect that. Thanks for sharing. Now at least we know. What's your take on the job situation? When it comes to data centers, there's a lot of short-term work in the build and construction, which would probably be several years, and then there's the ongoing maintenance and oversight. When you think of data centers, Patrick, do you get excited about the job opportunities it creates, or are you more focused on, listen, we need this energy to run all of our technology?
A couple things. Yes, especially for the trades, because somebody's got to build these things, right? And then tremendous opportunity there. I'm also excited for the future and what we need. And the reality is, it's a national security issue. At the end of the day, this is a national security issue. We have already farmed out all of our semiconductors work, all the stuff, our pharmaceuticals, everything we've given to our enemy to do. I'm like, if I was China, I wanted to take over America, I just start putting poisons into the pharmaceuticals. It's ridiculous. Starting to pull that back. Now, data centers, there is an AI race. You and I, one of our first conversations we ever
Yes.
had was on the AI race. There is an AI race. You need to have your own data centers. Now, I will tell you, there's a couple questions that always have to be answered. Who pays for it? Who benefits? And who carries the right? Those are the questions. Who pays for it? Who benefits from it? And who carries the risk? And those are the things that politicians need to carry into a negotiation because they could get a lot of wins out of it. They could actually get some things that help them with their energy generation. The problem is they don't want help with their energy generation unless it's building more windmills or putting stuff like that in place, right? I can drive to Vegas from here, and there are these solar farms where they shoot the rays up into a tower, birds fly through them and catch on fire. Now you're pissing off the environmentalists. I digress. Real quick, a case against data centers. Enormous electricity demand. True. That's why we need nuclear. Residential customers may subsidize them only because you're already messed up in your own state. Permanent jobs may be oversold. That's true. People are always overselling things. Politicians, business people, marketing. Water use can be a serious problem. Definitely. It already is, right? Agriculture takes a lot of water to produce a green vegetable. Community impact may outweigh local benefit. Could be, but we're not building these downtown. Some we may be, but there's a lot of open space that we can build these things in. Why not underground? I don't know. Environmental claims can hide the full picture. As long as there's attorneys, there's going to be environmental claims. As long as we have granola, there's always going to be environmental claims. The case for data centers, it's essential infrastructure. We've already touched on that. Massive capital investment, tons of money coming into a community, construction and skilled trades work, huge opportunity there. Potential tax base expansion, it can accelerate energy investment. Scott, I'm for data centers. I'm for thoughtful building of data centers, not just go put a data center anywhere. That's what we have to be. Experiencing it here locally with shutting down the potential for a data center to come out. And then hearing Kathy Holcomb, the governor of New York, shutting down for a year any talk of data centers, that is only going to expand. I have a feeling, not to get political, it's going to expand more in blue states than it is in red states. At the end of the day, you just can't start shutting them down. And then what's going to happen is they're going to strike deals and they're going to go to certain places. And then later, those politicians and community leaders that struck them down are going to be outraged because they're going to talk equity and all of that stuff because they're not gaining and reaping the benefits of these data centers and the employment and the tax base and all of those things. Look, right here in our community, we have builders that go out and they develop low income housing. We had a low income housing project, took forever. Why did it take forever? The local utility couldn't provide power to it. You want to go build something? You're going to have to come up with millions of dollars. Builders are subsidizing power. They're the ones that are having to come up with the money to give to the utilities to be able to expand the power to build low income housing, new housing, multifamily housing, single family housing, commercial, all of that. So it's already an issue, but the issue has been created through years of stupid thinking.
One of my last thoughts, Patrick, on this is Patrick and I, with Through the Human Edge and other work that we do, we're always encouraging. Give this some thought. Look into it. If you have a strong opinion, fine. Keep doing more research and understand the impact on the community, on people, on finances, on utility companies. If you can get involved in a way that's constructive, not tearing things down. I know that's easier said than done, but really, if you have a belief of a certain angle or aspect of the data centers, see what you can contribute to it. And the other thing is, Patrick, you and I both believe this. Talk to people who are in business. If you're formulating opinions Don't just read the news online or listen to things through the phone or your TV. Talk to people like Patrick. Understand how a business person's mind would look at these opportunities and what are the pros and cons. Weigh those out. You might be able to influence other people in your neighborhood to look at things differently.
At the end of the day, Kathy Holcomb is using AI. She wants to use AI. She wants her state
Yeah.
to have the benefits of AI. She wants doctors to be able to use AI. She wants business people. She wants politicians. She wants school children. She wants everybody to get the benefits that a data center will bring, just not in her backyard. You can't have your cake and eat it too. If you're already in a state where they're already messed up, like California, thanks, Gavi, with the utilities and everybody wants to be green. I'm all for green. I'm a recycling fanatic. The problem is the poor energy infrastructure and poor energy policy that already exists. Listen, everybody wants prisoners to be securely held in a prison, but nobody wants a prison built in their community. Everybody wants to use AI and benefit from all the technology out there, but doesn't want it in their community. Look, you're going to have to make a decision. Once that decision's made, great. If you want the benefits, if you want the cake and you want to eat it too, then you're going to have to find out a way to create a win-win scenario. The money that's behind these data centers, the deals that can be made. If you're a politician and you're responsible for turning one of these down, you shouldn't be reelected.
Especially so early in the game. I could see if they did their homework and had data to support their decision, but already you're turning this down? Sorry, I feel strongly about that part. The timing doesn't seem right to me.
I'm not saying you just say yes to it and jump into bed with them, but don't say no and shut it down.
Correct.
Have a long going strategy, strategic process, and everything like that. So at the end of the day, we need these data centers. It is mission critical for national security. If you're totally against data centers, what I would encourage you to do is hang up your phone. Don't use AI. Don't play your video games. Don't do any of that stuff. The reality is you're contributing to the need and the demand. So it's not a question of do we need data centers? Can we have data centers or not have data centers? It's a simple question of how do we create a win-win for data centers, for the people that are going to use them, for the communities they're going to impact. And the impact is going to have positive and negative impacts. Anything does. If they come into town and they build a hotel, a high-rise hotel, there's positive and negative impacts on that, right?
Mhm.
So you've just got to know what are the positives, what are the negatives. Everything is going to have a positive and a negative. Everything's going to have an asset and a liability side to it. Look at it like a balance sheet. There's always going to be assets, there's always going to be liabilities, but it should balance just like a balance sheet. And with that said, another episode of The Human Edge is in the books. We hope you enjoyed it. This one's probably going to get a lot of hate, a lot of love, kind of controversial topic. Go to our website, takecontrolai.com. Take the assessment, check it out, sign up for our newsletter. If you like the show, we'd love for you to like it and share it. That really helps us. Either way, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for the support. And until next time, stay connected.